The first encounter was when I was young and trying to fall asleep. I looked out the window and saw it, out towards the backyard and faced my window at the time. Nowadays, I sleep in the basement. Back on topic, my brother and I always felt nervous looking out the window. My bed perfectly faced the window at the time the beast was 3 feet away, looking into the window. It had yellow eyes, the long snout of a dog, black fur. Its face was kinda human, subtract the snout and the gnarly, long teeth, and fur all over its face. Once it realized I noticed it, it snarled at me quietly through the window, and it was a stare down. I slowly pulled the covers over my head. I then proceeded to cry for what felt like forever. Then, I ran into my parents' room crying, telling me it was just a dream. I thought that for what was like 8 years until my sophomore year in high school when my brother, my friend and I were out fishing. My brother loved peanut butter at the time. He brought a plate with a giant serving-sized spoon glob and some Ritz crackers. There's a creek back there. Surprisingly some decent fish, mostly chub, but there is bullhead, carp, green-bellied sunfish, crayfish, and snapping turtles, brown trout, but that's really rare to catch there. We sometimes thought it'd be funny to throw the chub there and leave them there at our favorite spot. A giant fallen oak tree, which acts like a natural bridge across the creek it fell due to the amount of weight it was bearing, that due to a bad snowstorm. My friend and I went downstream one summer's day. Meanwhile, my brother was fishing alone. He went to go take a leak. He left the food on the other side of the creek. When he came back, he saw it running off with. He described it as more of a Bigfoot. He ran to us hysterical. We just thought he was crazy, so we started calling him Crazy Joey. After that, I thought of my run-in with something similar at the young age and the stare down. Later, my friend was busy with lawn work and prepping to move. I was secretly afraid to go out. Joe decided to come back there a month later. He left by himself. I wish I could have saw to confirm my story, but the second time around I believed him for sure. He was catching some fish, his line was all screwed up, and took it off his fishing and re-spooled it, and he ran and came because he only had one hook on the pole. He ran back and claimed that he had the same thing, chasing the bird that was wrapped up. He yelled and scared it, then ran back home for a knife as fast as he can, then cut it free. I seen something similar to my sighting. My brother, my friend and some others were going to fish at a legal spot we didn't know it was private property at the time. Whenever me and my friends try out new spots, we have the tradition of casting bass lures first, and then using normal live bait. I wanted to hesitate because the fish were biting there pretty good at the creek. So, sure enough, they went ahead of me across the oak tree towards the quarry. I felt alone after 12 minutes. Then I took my bag, 2 poles, and the tackle I was changing out close to the log. I started walking and saw what I thought to be a big gray wolf easily waist me, being around 5'6". In Illinois, anything's possible. My friend got cornered by 4 coyotes out there once, but sure enough, the creature by another giant oak tree and I made eye contact again. Another stare down, only different since it was on all 4s. It was obviously interested in my friend, since it was following the trail that leads there. I yelled and chased it off. The look on its face was playful, because it was probably pretending not to notice me, so I chased it to the clearing. The retention ponds are on the left and a small prairie on the right. It seemingly went towards the prairie. Sure enough, I quickly forgot when one of my friends caught a big largemouth bass that weighed 3.5 pounds on the first cast. I waited until we were going to leave to inform them because I didn't want to ruin the fact we were catching bass on every cast. But the guard working there gave us a warning and told us to get out of there and this private property, etc. I told them and they didn't believe me. The last time we saw something similar, me and my brother were scavenging for roadkill when we saw a black dog. Maybe it looked at us, ran away constantly. Back it moved gracefully through the brush. Meanwhile, me and my brother were absolutely getting torn up by the raspberry bushes. We catch up. It waits, and then runs away again. We played this game 5 times with that thing. Then we couldn't find it again. I live in Roscoe, enjoy being outside. I notice strange things out in the woods. People usually just kick the roadkill off the highway. It can cause an issue if it's big enough like a deer. But I noticed some things went out of its way to drag them out of the prairie. Coyotes, maybe. That thing is sure, why not? There's plenty of deer, turkey, rabbits. You can even hear the coyotes get excited when they catch a poor rabbit at night. April 1999. For some background info, I was raised in the deserts, southeast of New Mexico, on 2 different ranches, so I am very well versed in the flora and fauna of our beautiful state. I even used to track semi-professionally for hunters and our local trapper. I know the critters around this state. We have always lived on very remote ranches, 50, sometimes 70 miles from the nearest actual town. My senior year of high school, I moved out on my own, being a part of the DECA program, to live closer to my job and school, living about 12 miles from a small New Mexico town where my school and job were. Seemed like living right in town after all of that. I guess my story starts in April of 1999. My boyfriend and I were rooming with a couple in a trailer house just outside of Lakewood, New Mexico. We rented a room from them and sometimes watched their 2 kids as a part of our rental agreement. For a few weeks that April, a lot of the neighboring landowners have been complaining about wild dogs coming up from the river and harassing their dogs and scaring their livestock. We were about a mile from the Pecos River, and wild dogs have indeed been a problem in the area. One guy had even reported seeing some structural damage to one of his chicken coops. The couple we lived with had 2 dogs, both of them medium-sized terrier mixes, and neither one of them were on the cowardly side. They had been getting very skittish about going outside at night, though. So much so that we had to make sure to let them out right at sunset and again at sunrise, because they would not leave the trailer house that night otherwise. On Saturday night, at about 11 p.m., I know it was a Saturday because I had neither work or school. Near the end of the month, the 4 of us were sitting around watching TV and just basically talking about stuff when the dogs, who were asleep in the master bedroom on the far east side of the house, started growling and barking at the window on the south wall of the bedroom. This was really unusual behavior for them, so we all got up to see what they were on about. By the time we got there, the dogs had shifted their barking away from the window and seemed to be barking at the wall and along the wall, like they could smell something there, but it was moving. It was very strange, and when they came up to the end of the room, their barking just went crazy. Suddenly, from farther down the wall, at the same time, about where the kitchen was, we all heard this loud thump and scuffling sound. It was powerful enough that we actually felt it, with it being an 80 by 16 trailer house and all. The dogs at this point just completely lost it. They cried out a high-pitched whine and just dove under the bed. We all ran out of the bedroom, down the hall, and into the kitchen to see what the heck was up. Peering out of the kitchen window was pointless, as it was late. There was cloud cover, and the moon wasn't even out. We heard the scuffling noise again, and further down the house, and went into the living room to see what was up. We were all really confused at this point. The next few moments seemed to happen in slow motion. Appearing in the living room window from the left and looking right into us from the glass was, I don't know what. From the shoulders up was what I can only describe as a man dog. Its shoulders were quite human, with short, sleek hair, but the head what looked to be that of a Rottweiler. And the teeth, oh my. The teeth on this thing. All 4 of us screamed at about the same time, and I guess that scared it off, because it just disappeared. That image, though, is forever seared into my head. Also of note, this was a trailer house, so the bottom of that window was easily 6 foot off the ground, meaning this thing was 7 foot something. No matter how big of a dog or wolf it was, it could not have stood up and looked at us like that, in the window. The guys, being guys, immediately grabbed their shotguns and headed out the door, even though I told them it was a bad idea. Super dark desert, right? Big unknown critter. No. I guess they were out there looking for it for like 20 minutes before they came back inside and said they could not see a thing. The light from the house shining on it, and it being so close to the window, were the only reasons we saw it in the first place. none of us really slept well that night. It just felt super creepy. The next morning, I got up early and decided to go have a look around to see if there were any tracks to identify what it was. The grass and weeds that were right beside the house pretty much hid any tracks it made there, although I did find where it looked as if something had clawed the sliding along the bottom of the house in a couple of places, making the thump and scuffling sounds the night before. I then decided to follow the tracks the guys had made, and that was when I made a second, very unnerving discovery. The guys made clear tracks in the sandy dirt, and whatever it was out there did well, because it was pretty much circling them the entire time they were out there, at a distance of about 40 feet. The tracks were huge, canine, and switched back and forth from 4 tracks to 2, meaning it was walking bipedally for at least half the time it circled them. Just creepy. My dad and mom had taken my little brother and sister to Tucson to do something for the day. We lived in a trailer in a rural area outside of Sierra Vista. We had 2 horses, 2 dogs, a cow, and chickens on a small amount of land that we had. As the oldest son, and being 17, it was my job to feed and take care of them. On the night in question, it was a stormy monsoon rain, with thunder and lightning going on. But, like monsoons can be, they rage and then settle into a lull, and rage again. I was getting ready to settle down and watch a good movie, when all of a sudden, my 2 dogs started barking and wouldn't shut up. When I told them to calm down, in the previous week or so before that, my dogs had been acting up and barking a lot at night. I attributed this to coyotes that I had heard and howling in just the nighttime, so I got my dad's .30-30 and just 1 bullet, in case I had to shoot to scare off the coyote or killed it if rabid. I rested the loaded rifle near the wall by the back door and turned on the floodlights just outside the trailer. The rain had just now stopped, so I looked out by the window near the front door and saw 2 of our horses and cows staring, as if through the front door, to the back door of the trailer where the dogs were barking. I thought, maybe they're scared of the coyotes. So I grabbed the rifle and opened up the back door. As I was getting near the back door, I heard my dogs whimpering and crying. Now I was thinking, could it be a pack of coyotes? So I put a few bullets in my pocket, figuring I could load them if I didn't like what I saw. I opened the door and the darndest thing happened. My 2 dogs beeline rush past me to the center of the trailer and hunker down in the kitchen. Mud is everywhere on the floor from their paws, and now I'm pissed because I have to clean it up. So I close the door and go to try to get my dogs to get out, but they wouldn't budge and squirmed out of my arms when I tried to grab them. They were terrified. Now I was mad at the coyotes and grabbed the rifle to go run them off or kill them. The trailer sits on a foundation of blocks. The front and back doors are accessible by a set of small stairs. I'm 5'6", by the way. I opened the back door and was looking out in the darkness at that point. I was about to step out when I saw a set of eyes looking back at me out of the darkness. From the top of my head in the trailer to the ground is around 7+ feet or so, and here is a set of eyes looking at me, level and square on. I'm like, darn, coyote must be on the small gravel hill we used to pave the road, or it's a bird on a mesquite bush. But I was thinking to myself, that monsoon was awfully bad and rained hard. What kind of bird would hunker down on a mesquite bush? And why would a coyote be out in a downpour? So I'm raising my rifle and drawing a bead on the eyes when lightning lights up the night. All of a sudden, the lightning illuminates the small gravel hill. That's like 6 feet high, and the surrounding mesquite bushes. The light winks out as fast as it appeared. From the lightning, though, there was nothing on the gravel hill, and no bird of any on the mesquite bushes. Then it dawned on me. Whatever it was very tall and was still staring at me. A sense of dread crept over me all of a sudden, as I realized that the .30-30 only had 1 measly bullet, and if I missed, there was no way I'd be able to reload before it was on me. I kept the gun pointed at it as I quickly closed the door. I locked the door, realizing this trailer would never withstand whatever it was out there if it attacked. I locked the front door and turned on all the lights in the house. I grabbed the bullets of the .30-06 and .22 rifle, then go into the kitchen with the dogs and I loaded each rifle full on. I hugged my dogs and prayed that whatever it was went away and did not attack. I stayed awake the whole night until my parents got back. My dad was furious that the lights were on, but my dad checked outside for coyotes, but whatever it was gone. I grew up in a town called Hawthorne, located in Nevada. Hawthorne is located right next to Walker Lake. The main highway leading from Hawthorne to Reno is Highway 95, which, if you use Google Earth or Google Maps, you can see runs right between Walker Lake and a mountain range. This creates a small area of highway that is affectionately known to the locals as the Cliffs. When I was 14, my grandparents, mom, and I were coming home late from a long day of doctor's appointments in Reno. My grandfather was driving, and we hit the cliffs a little after 11:30 p.m. I was in the passenger seat to help keep my grandfather awake, but I still just think it was so I would sing him folk songs. Anyway, about a third of the way around the cliffs, heading toward Hawthorne, there is a small area where the road pulls away from the mountain and creates a small alcove area. As we started to come up on it, we saw a large animal crossing the road, dragging another animal in its mouth, and it stopped in this alcove. Grandpa thought at first that I might get my first look at a live mountain lion, so he slowed down. When we got within 100 feet of it, he turned on the brights of the car. To our surprise, it was no mountain lion. We only had a couple of seconds to look at it after Grandpa turned on the brights, because right after the light hit whatever it was, it turned to look at us 1 second, and the next, it leapt straight up the side of the mountain and out of sight, leaving the mangled body of a fox. Grandfather hit the gas and the old Buick we were in jumped, waking up the woman in the back seat. I had never seen my grandfather truly scared before, but even he was physically shaking afterward. I remember the sheer bulk of the thing and the fact that it looked like a really large bodybuilder when it jumped in the same fashion as a human, with its arms reaching up toward the rocks almost over its head. It had long, thick fur, but you could see the muscle definition. I don't remember the facial features, but I remember the pure terror when that thing turned and looked at the car with shining yellow eyes. I even pissed myself. I have come practically face to face with a polar bear, and I wasn't as scared as when we saw this thing. Now, I don't believe in werewolves, and I haven't seen anything like it since, but I hope I never do again. On August 27th, 2016, my 10-year-old grandson was sitting in a car at a restaurant parking lot. This occurred in San Francisco, California. He was waiting for his paternal grandmother. Across the street from him, on a sidewalk, he noticed a large creature, which I determined to be 7 to 8 foot tall, from talking with him. It was walking on 2 legs towards a wooded area at the end of a sidewalk and disappeared into some brush. The creature did not appear concerned about my grandson, as it was in no hurry. When I asked him about what he had seen, he described a classic canine-type dogman with red eyes. His distance from this creature was around 30 feet. Dali City is a semi-rural, with many pockets of woodlands and some tracts of forest here and there. The area where he saw the creature has paved roads and sidewalks, ringed with areas of trees. This occurred in 1953. The encounter I'd like to share is not my own, but that of my mother. She used to tell me stories when I was young about strange things that she had experienced in her lifetime. I remember this dogman type of encounter. There's not particularly a lot of detail to this encounter, but what you might find interesting is the location. The sighting took place in Sacramento, California, around 1953, not too far from our state's capital. Using Google Maps to get an approximate location and lay of the land, I can see the sighting area was about 1,000 feet to the west and perpendicular to the American River. Across the river from the east bank, it's only about another 2,000 feet east to the state capital. So, this took place fairly close to a heavily populated area. My mother states when she was about 12 years old, she was lying on the couch watching TV. That's when she noticed a scary dog face looking at her through a low-pane window. The window was on either side by the door. I'm unclear of this fact. In any event, the head, she said, must have been about 2 to 2.5 feet above the ground. She covered her face in fright with her pillow. After a minute or so, she snuck a peek, figuring she just might be imagining things. She saw it and was gone, and felt a little better. Then she noticed it was now looking through another higher window. Its head was now about 4 to 4.5 feet above the ground, according to her recollection. There was nothing outside that window for a dog to stand on. At that point, she just ran to another room in terror. She doesn't really recall what happened after that. She describes the animal as being dark gray, with glowing red eyes, seemingly panting or baring its teeth. She didn't see the body, but had the impression that it was thin. Unfortunately, she doesn't recall the time of day, month, or season. My parents tell me there's likely some American Indian burial grounds in the area, as there have been excavations near the river, which yielded Native American arrowheads and other artifacts. I know it's been mentioned in some of the encounters, a proximity to rivers and Native American burial grounds. I even asked my mother if there was cornfields in the area, since that has been mentioned in the encounters before. She said only a small patch of corn stalks in their own backyard. I don't think that qualifies. The area around my grandparents' house was not really wooded. The neighborhood was mostly large fields with a few horses and some cattle. The areas around the river is wooded now, and though was probably a lot more so in 1953 than it is today. Another paranormal story about this area is that on Monster Quest's episode detailing the Mothman, someone supposedly was taking dusk or night shot pictures of the Tower Bridge in 2009 and saw a flying humanoid shape or something fly off a bridge. The Tower Bridge is in the 1,000-foot range from my grandparents' house. Spooky, and that's all there really is. This happened in March of 2017. It was 2:30 a.m., and another night of not being able to sleep due to back pain. I was lying on my side, reading, when my very close by neighbor's motion detector light turned on. This does happen from time to time. When it turns on, it lights up the entire side of my house. We have lived here 9 years, and I have never once seen anything walk past my bedroom window at night. Since I was facing my large bedroom window, the very bright motion detector light going off caught my attention. I looked up and saw the side silhouette of a dogman. I exclaimed. It was walking past my bedroom window. I saw it from mid-shoulders up. The shoulders were huge and its head was huge. It had pointed ears like a German Shepherd dog and a long snout. Its mouth was slightly open, as I saw a large tongue that seemed to be lolling to the side of its mouth. When I saw this creature and spoke those words, I could swear that the thing slowed down, smirked, and then kept on going. That's all I saw that night. Last week, though, while in my bedroom again, I heard something huge land on the ground behind my bedroom wall. That wall has no windows. I heard a deep, raspy kind of breathing. I started praying, pleading the blood of Jesus over my house, grounds around it, and all. I do this most nights, but sometimes I forget. I'm awake most nights until 3 a.m. or later, due to having severe spinal issues as well as fibromyalgia. We live in a lovely manufactured home community. There are lots of trees around here, and it's very close to canals, large open fields, and woods. I know this is what I saw, but the fact that I saw it has left me amazed. Why is it that when so many are also seeing them? I guess I just thought since I'm in the house most of the time due to my health, I would never see them. The space between my neighbor's house and ours is about 10 feet. My husband went outside weeks later, once I got the courage to tell him that this had happened, and measured the area by the window. That dogman had to be at least 8 feet tall. What concerns me greatly is that no one in the police department or government will alert people to their existence. People are walking around feeling a false sense of security. I know I did. I won't even try to walk outside anymore. And yes, I have cautioned my neighbors, the ones with the security light. I can't think of any other details right now, but it's important for you to know that several years ago, a homeless woman was camping out down by the river here in Albany, Oregon. She was found dead, and her tent was torn up. I believe the police report in the newspaper said she was torn up as well, but I honestly can't remember any of the details. To the best of my knowledge, no one was ever caught for that crime. This is a sleepy town, just over 50,000 people here in Lynn County. We no longer get the newspaper, so I have no idea if this happened again. I do know that a couple was down by that same area and saw a dogman. It really frightened them badly. I heard about that on another YouTube channel, so I just want people to be aware so they don't go out at night anymore, especially near the river. But then, we're not near a river, and I saw one in the middle of the night.